I want you to think back to that moment. It starts with a funny feeling in your belly. It gets worse and worse. And then you got to run to the bathroom. Food poisoning. Do you remember the last time you've had it? No fun. Emails are just as fundamental as the food and water in our lives and serve as the bread and butter of our daily communication. Yet we send them and read them without thinking about them for a second. According to Statista, 300 billion emails are sent daily around the world. This means that each and every one of us who works an average office job receives 121 emails on a day on average. And the email equivalent for food poisoning, that dish that got you really sick, is a rotten email. You remember why it sucked? Maybe it even gave you that similar feeling in your belly. It was either too long or too annoying, or simply had that typo in your name. And that happens way more often than food poisoning. Let me tell you about the worst email I've ever received. I used to work for this big German corporation. A lot has happened since then. Anyway, it was my last day, and I was waiting for my boss to call me in to say goodbye. So I had another coffee and said another goodbye, and my boss, he never called me in. He was too busy, you see. He sent me an email instead. And I was so devastated that this was the way he chose to say goodbye. I guess that's one reason I'm standing here today. Some emails should just not be sent to begin with. But emails are crucial, and in many cases cannot be replaced by any other means of communication. For traceability, to have many people read the same thing, for time differences. In other cases, maybe there is a better way. A study done with Microsoft that analyzed around 1 million emails found out that the average employee spends 28% of his or her day working on emails, but only about half that time in actually physically communicating with colleagues. But did anybody ever teach you how to write an email? I've dedicated more than half of my life for learning and teaching. I've trained scouts, I've trained soldiers for the Israeli army, I teach management in a university in Germany today. And just like the rest of you, I send and receive texts and emails, loads of them. I use them to stay in touch with my students, my partners, my colleagues all around the world. As a matter of fact, I only get to meet many of them a few times a year in person, but I still need to maintain a strong human relationship in between those face-to-face meetings. So how can one do this successfully? The trick is to focus on small things that make a big difference. Therefore, while coaching and working with thousands of people all around the world who work in car and motorcycle dealerships, who sell Swiss watches, who work in pharma, real estate, private banks, my students and I analyzed and optimized the one tool we all use every day, email. And we figured out that just by tweaking 5 little things, you can make sure that your email hits the spot, you spend less time working on it, and believe me, writing an email might even become fun. So here we go, the 5 ingredients for a really great email. Number 1, imagine the Queen of England invites you for dinner at Buckingham Palace. You put your best clothes on and are seated at the most magnificent dining table you've ever seen in your life. And then you get the banquet menu. What language do you think it's written in? English? Wrong. French. Why? Because most haute cuisine dishes are still named in French today, even by the Queen of England. It's all about first impressions. And in an email, that subject line is your first impression. It's what differentiates the dinner at Buckingham Palace from a Big Mac at McDonald's. Stand out or go to spam. Research shows that 3 things could make a really great subject line. Number 1, the call for action, like this one here. Number 2, being as short as possible, almost mysterious, like this one here. Number 3, indicating a connection to the receiver, like this one here. Now, I wanted to find out which of the 3 is the best, so I added 2 more boring subject lines to these 3, a bank statement and some generic welcome message. And I went out there and asked more than 300 people, which of these emails would you open first? Here's what came out. The clear winner is the call for action, followed by the short one, and then the one indicating connection. I was actually quite surprised that 17% chose my boring subject lines, but I then remembered that quite a few of my contacts are bankers, so I guess there's only so much I could do. Therefore, ingredient number 1 is say what you want in the subject line. Number 2, emails are boring to look at and written in black and white. It's like us speaking without using our voice, our face, and our body. So how can one add color and, more importantly, feeling into that email? Well, by using different kinds of punctuation and, yes, also emojis. I like to call it digital body language, which we need so desperately to be who we are, even if we're just writing an email. Imagine somebody wanted to send me a thank you note. They could write it like this: Dear Guy, thank you for visiting. And this is how I'd read it in my head, because of the full stop. It really closes off that sentence. Did you know that when a teenager finishes a text message with a full stop, they're really, really angry at you? Go check out those WhatsApp messages. Okay, let's try it again. Guy, thanks for visiting. Much better, because of the exclamation mark. However, and I've been getting quite a few of these from the other side of the Atlantic, when have we become too lazy to include some form of hello in our email? Please say hello. One last time. Hey guy, awesome that you dropped by. Sure, this may be informal for some for a business setting, but that smiley really makes a difference. And I didn't even get the colorful one. Want to go all in or resonate with Generation Z? Put a GIF in there. It's that same teenager who was angry at you with a full stop, only now they're really, really happy. So, should we always include an emoji or a GIF in our business emails? Absolutely not. Compare digital body language to spices in your email recipe. According to the background, the setting, the culture, you may want more or less of hot curry or hot sauce in your pot. Number 3, I totally remember that day. I was about 10 years old, and we were about to have our first ever computer class. Everybody was super excited. So the teacher comes in and says, class, today we're going to learn how to type blindly by using 2 hands. And I couldn't. I still can't. You see, I was born with a defect on my left arm. I can only type with 1 hand, which makes me about half as fast as the rest of you. Turns out, though, that this was my advantage. My emails are always very short because it takes me forever to write one, but they almost always get an answer. How come? Researchers from NYU, MIT, and Boston University found out that the average business email is not really read, but rather skimmed through and sometimes completely deleted. As a matter of fact, with every additional word you type beyond the first 40, you directly reduce the chances of getting an answer. I like to call this the tweet principle. If your email is longer than a tweet or 140 characters, maybe you should give that person a phone call instead. Ingredient number 3 is be as brief as a tweet. Now, some of you may be thinking, Guy, there's no way my meeting notes can be that short. And they're absolutely right. But the part in which you want something to happen or need someone to do something can and should be, and be clearly separated from the rest. And those notes, put them as an attachment instead. Number 4. Imagine I had a word, a magical word, a word that would instantaneously grab the attention of any single person in the world. Well, I do. It's your name. The amazing Dale Carnegie said that a person's name is to him or her the sweetest and most important sound in any language. And he was writing about communication almost 100 years ago. Why not use the same rule for emails? We still all have a narcissist within us. Use names in critical moments, and you'll increase the chances of getting an answer. For example, when a request in the email is especially important for you, start again by using the receiver's name, and that sentence will not be skimmed through. Research also shows that just by mentioning a name of someone that the reader knows, you increase the chances of getting an answer too. Lastly, the power of the name can also turn completely against you. Misspell that name, and all the thought you put into the email will go down the drain. So, what are the ingredients for an email that will always get an answer? Number 1, say what you want in the subject line. Number 2, use digital body language, depending on the setting. Number 3, be as brief as a tweet. Number 4, use names in key moments. Now, many people may say that there is no perfect email, and they're absolutely right. Every email has a different goal, but most emails have 2 things in common. Number 1, you want something from someone, and number 2, that someone is still a human being. And with these 2, the magical ingredients can definitely help. What matters is the dose. You can have the perfect list of ingredients, but without the right quantities, your cake might take a terrible twist. Therefore, next time you write an email, I want you to break out of your email writing habits by picturing the person you're writing to and trying to bake your email to their taste using all these ingredients. Oh, one more thing, and this is number 5. Do you remember how Steve Jobs used to present the coolest product right at the end of his keynote? He would say, one more thing, and boom, out came that brand new iPhone. Let's all learn from Steve Jobs. The one thing you need from the reader, the one thing that's most important for you, the one thing you're maybe a bit uncomfortable saying, should be put under the PS line. Why? This is called last impression, and it's way less famous than the first impression we all know about. Yet, it is at least as powerful because it sticks to the mind of the reader long after the rest is forgotten. Let me give you an example. Anytime somebody forgets to pay me, I can't write an email saying, "Hello, where is my money?" What I can do, though, is write an email that says, "Hey, you're a great audience. Thank you for having me. P.S. That last invoice wasn't paid yet. Smiley." And that always gets the job done. Thank you, Mr. Jobs. Finally, this one is for the boss who wrote me that goodbye email. Sir, some emails should not be emails to begin with. But even if it is, it could probably look a little bit more like this. Thank you.